Today we're gonna Netflix and swill, as I talk about the ending of Black Mirror's first episode, the National Anthem. Also commonly referred to as, isn't that the episode where the guy is told he has to f*** a pig? I'm gonna be analyzing the ending while adding some clarity to the overall story, so no doubt there will be spoilers ahead. The National Anthem is one of the darker episodes of Black Mirror, and because of the somber tone that comes with this dark subject matter, I will attempt to brighten up the mood by seeing how many pig puns I can make throughout this analysis. And since I already opened with that beautifully haunting Netflix and swill pun, I can add 1 point to the pig pun counter and you can question my sanity. Let's begin! The National Anthem follows the Prime Minister Michael Callow, who is informed that Princess Susanna has been kidnapped, and a video of her being held hostage has gone viral on the internet. Susanna is forced to read a script, explaining that if the Prime Minister doesn't have sexual intercourse with a pig by 4 p.m. that day, she will be executed. Black Mirror is a sci-fi anthology series that frequently focuses on how new technology that is supposed to be used for widespread good can be corrupted by humans and used for a completely new, more destructive purpose. During my analysis on Hated in the Nation, I was praising the episode for being so grounded in reality, as it focuses on real-world innovations like self-driving cars, popular social media websites like Twitter, and artificial bees. All tech that exists, or is just on the brink of being implemented into our society. So what makes the National Anthem so great is that there's really no difference between our society and theirs. The only tech we see being used are cell phones, average computers, some special effects software that already exists, and websites like YouTube and Twitter. And that's it. No crazy sci-fi elements. It's so grounded and real that we sympathize greatly with Callow's anxieties and struggles in this matter, as we subconsciously put ourselves in his shoes, adding to what makes this episode harder to watch than others. Julian was right when he said, "This is virgin territory, Prime Minister. There's no playbook." The perfect line to open the series with, as he's basically saying, the future is now, things are about to get weird, and we don't know what to do. Because as we start to enter these uncharted waters, aka this new world of tech, we see things happening for the first time in history. So when something goes wrong, it's old world versus new world, and the old world is always unprepared. In this episode in particular, we see old media versus new media. For example, in the UK, a D notice, or a Defense and Security Media Advisory Notice, is an official request from the government to all news outlets, basically telling them not to broadcast or report on any specific matter for reasons of national security. This episode is titled The National Anthem, as it's referencing the title to the national anthem of the UK, God Save the Queen, a title that relates to DSMA Notice 5, of personnel and their families who work in sensitive positions. D notices in the UK are not legally enforced. However, news editors typically respect the notice, but because the video of Susanna came from our turf, it was harder to control to the point where it went global. Other than removing it from YouTube, the D notice was the first and only plan they had when attempting to take down the video. But we live in a faster paced world, and it's only getting faster with each passing day. Information is being communicated and spread quicker than ever before, so the video is being re-uploaded faster than they can take it down. When Martin from UKN is talking about how no other network is breaking rank, Damon Brown says, "I hear Facebook's coverage is pretty comprehensive." And because of the accessibility of websites like YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, UK news stations have to compete with something that is being spread throughout the world, forcing them to break rank in their own country, making D-notices essentially ineffective, as social media sites are near impossible to be controlled or censored by one country after something goes global. This episode is not really about the pig itself or the Prime Minister's reputation at risk for taking one for the team. What this episode comes down to is that the Prime Minister wouldn't have had to the pig if the nation didn't tune in to watch him the pig. The artist Carlton Bloom had everything planned out from beginning to end. Some people, including myself, were curious as to why the government wanted to do a better job of concealing the porn star's identity when bringing him into the studio to act as Cal's replacement, because we later see that the kidnapper, aka Carlton Bloom, supposedly found out the government was trying to get around the list of demands. As Alex says, "It seems some idiot at the studio recognized our designated performer, tweeted a photo, and the online hive mind did the maths." This is just adding to how much the government was unprepared when handling the situation, as they lacked the knowledge on a lot of aspects of new media. Also, the first time we see Carlton, there's no shot of his hand. When the first broadcast of Susanna goes up, he just walks over to the sink. When revisiting this episode with added context, it's implying that Carlton was washing out the wound from removing his finger. He removed it when making both demand videos right before they were sent out, because we never see Carlton leave his studio throughout the entire episode. So the video in the package containing the finger pressure were already on its way to be delivered to UKN at a certain time, even if the government was following his demands or not. Carlton was just anticipating that they wouldn't be, just like how he was right with all of his other predictions. Like every other calculated measure during this demonstration or piece of art, Carlton killing himself was also part of the plan. It was not upon realization that the world was messed up that he right then and there decided to end it all. He seems pretty calm in the brief moments he appears in throughout the episode, and he remains calm when Kalu is in the process of saving the princess. Carlton already lost hope in society, and the only reason his plan worked is because his predictions were correct. Carlton kidnapped Princess Susanna, a member of the royal family. I don't know exactly what the punishment for doing that would be, but I'm assuming it's not good. With Carlton aware of the severity of his crime, he knew he could never do another piece of art like this ever again, because getting away with kidnapping the princess is no walk in the park. The only reason we don't see him apprehended by police is because he took precise steps to keep the government occupied and misled within the short amount of time he gave them. A long-term investigation would no doubt end with Carlton's arrest, but that was something he never intended to face. In the end, news reporter Damon Brown said, "One art critic caused controversy by describing it as the first great artwork of the 21st century. Carlton was going to kill himself no matter what, because this is what he wanted to be known for, and most artists aren't appreciated until after their death." To name a few, there's Vincent van Gogh, Paul Gauguin, Claude Monet, Henry Darger, and plenty more. A very few amount of the greats were celebrated in their time. The message of Carlton's artwork won't get devalued or lose meaning if he is not around after the event. And speaking of Van Gogh, Carlton becomes iconic for removing his finger, while Van Gogh is famous for removing his ear. Everyone wanted the indecent act to happen. It was so twisted and over the top, but that didn't keep away the 1.3 billion people that gathered to watch it. In fact, that's why it attracted such a big number. The nurses and doctors just stood around the TV throughout the episode. Nurses and doctors typically work in these things called like a hospital, and if you've ever been to one of these hospitals before, you know that they are extremely busy places. However, the same staff just watches the situation unfold from the start of the newscast to the grand finale of the 1 hour plus of the Prime Minister making love to a pig. By the way, there was supposedly a scene where Malika was taken to the hospital after getting shot from her encounter with the strike team, where she would just be left on a gurney as the hospital staff were too occupied with watching Kalu on TV. This scene was cut from the final edit, but it does give some more context as to why we're specifically watching this group at the hospital, as well as adding to the overall point of how consumed the world was with watching this disgraceful event. Lauren's boyfriend stayed in bed all day to see what would happen, and when told that recording or possessing a copy of the broadcast will become illegal at midnight, he immediately hits record on his TV, and the people in the pub cheer in anticipation like it's some football game. Like us as an audience, the people in the pubs and in the hospitals were intrigued to see what would happen next. We kind of wanted to see how far it would go, as we also found this entire situation to be pretty ridiculous. Black Mirror's creator Charlie Brooker considered a fair amount of animals when trying to figure out what Kalu should be forced to perform a sexual act with. There was even a point where Brooker debated just making the Prime Minister do it with a giant wheel of cheese, but claimed you needed something that straddles the line between comic and horrifying. And because of this, a pig was the perfect choice. The sheer notion of the Prime Minister having to a pig was so absurd that it became funny to watch the situation escalate. In fact, the first half of this episode could be considered a black comedy, but when we come to the realization that Kalu is actually going to do the act, we feel sick. And that's the point. We're not really supposed to be entertained by the ending. This is a broken society that pressured the Prime Minister into committing the indecent act. Public opinion favored that he should just suck it up and do it to save the princess. The public's mindset was so fragile that it took one video of the terrorist removing the finger and the government trying to work around the demands to rapidly change the number of people in favor of the Prime Minister committing the indecent act from 28% to 86%. With no DNA confirmation that it actually was Susanna's finger, the public's opinion shifts so radically that they give in to the demands of a terrorist for the chance of liberating one individual by completely dehumanizing another. Then they all gathered to watch it, making them complicit, as they are now in a sense supporting this act of terrorism. When Kalu starts performing this indecent act, some people are amused and some people are grossed out, but then a fair amount of time passes and we are shown the audience once again, except this time nobody in the audience really said anything. Nobody laughed, nobody cried, nobody squealed. The amusement on their faces vanished. The rooms were silent and they were shocked at what was going on, but did nothing other than watch. 86% of the people were in favor of Callow doing it on the online poll, making Cowell a despised individual if he doesn't comply with the demands of a terrorist. So because of the public shift in opinion, the higher-ups felt they were able to make threats on Callow's life and his family. There was also no certainty that the plan would work and that Princess Susanna would be safely returned. Their society made this happen, but when given what they wanted, it ended up being more disturbing than anything else. Hashtag what did you expect? The executive producer of Black Mirror, Annabelle Jones, described the episode's topic as humiliation and the public's appetite for humiliation. Carlton's intent was most likely for the greater good. The scratches and the bruises on Susanna's face during the video were most likely fake, because being an artist, Carlton could easily just paint something convincing on her, and there were no signs of any scarring on her face when she was released back into the world at the end of the episode. Carlton set Susanna free and unharmed a half hour before Callow was gonna do the deed. If more people ignored the broadcast due to moral reasons, Susanna would have been found and easily recognized as she is beloved across the nation. Callow would have been immediately contacted and this crazy event would have never happened. At the hospital, when Lauren tries turning off the TV, she gets stopped by Pike. As he says, it's history this. People were so concerned about watching history that they end up not being able to change it. But if the broadcast was cut right before 4 p.m., the people who were anticipating Cowell f***ing the pig like it was the Super Bowl would be left to reflect on their own wants and desires, questioning themselves and their need to see something so vile and humiliating in the first place. This reflection could better their society. In the end, Damon Brown from UKN reports, the incident failed to destroy a prime minister who currently holds an approval rating 3 points higher than this time last year. The public's perception dictated the outcome of the event, yet they won't learn from this lesson. The early release of Princess Susanna is kept secret. Callow and Jane keep up their strong appearances in the world, making it seem like everything is fine. But because of this, the public is unable to witness the destruction they left behind. We start this episode with Jane and Cowell in bed waking up to the start of their day, and we finish this episode with the end of their day, witnessing this drastic change in their relationship, as there is this huge separation that has grown between the two of them. Through a screen, everything seems to be okay, but behind closed doors, the public's comments and their need to see something so obscene ruined any chance of Jane returning to a normal relationship with Callow. The public moves on and Jane and Callow never end up recovering from the event. The national anthem was the best choice for the pilot of Black Mirror. As we all know, Black Mirror can get pretty meta. In my analysis on 15 Million Merits, I mentioned that the episode was essentially Black Mirror calling out itself, but in the national anthem, Black Mirror is calling out its audience. The way the citizens watch Cowell is mirroring how we watch this series. Lauren from the hospital even mentions it's been on for nearly an hour, just like the average runtime of a Black Mirror episode. With each episode, we become desensitized to the next vile act. Like the doctors and nurses, it disturbs us, but we continue to watch. And soon enough, we all play the next episode. After viewing the national anthem, we're given the same message that 1.3 billion should be reflecting on, as you and I are left wanting more. One of the most famous episodes of The Twilight Zone is The Eye of the Beholder, also referred to as, isn't that the episode where the woman wakes up in the hospital and everyone's a pig? Making it so that Twilight Zone and Black Mirror, both sci-fi anthology shows, are known for their episodes with the pigs. So I think having an episode with a pig will definitely be the trend for any future sci-fi anthology shows. I'm making that prediction right here. And that was all I had to say about the ending of the national anthem. So there, I'm done making pig puns so you can stop swining about it. Oh! So if you guys like this analysis and it wasn't too boring for you, oh God, I'm sorry, I can't stop it at this point. Go check out my Black Mirror Ending Explained playlist full of videos of me giving my analysis on the series. And please subscribe to support this channel. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next Black Mirror Ending Explained.